Hello and welcome to our webinar today, Understanding DKIM Replay Attacks, a must for email senders. There's Fredrik. Hello, Fredrik. Yeah, a special welcome to our speakers today. We have Iverson, Fredrik Poller, and Sebastian Kluth, our technical lead. I'm glad that you're all here today, maybe for our last webinar of the year, but yeah, welcome, first of all. Just short to my person. My name is Maike and I'm the marketing and event manager at the CSA, and I'm responsible for the live webinars and the events, and especially the summit next year. And I think you all know the CSA and what we do, and just a short sentence about the CSA. Our goal is to increase the quality of commercial emailing, and we act as a neutral interface between mailbox providers and senders of commercial emailing. And we establish technical and legal quality standards in cooperation with our partners and, of course, our certified senders. And all the steps ends in our certification that we offer for your email business. And if you want to get more information about our daily business and how we can support you, just contact us after the webinar and we will send you more information about our work. And we have official partners doing the whole year, doing the webinars, and thank you all of them, the Martian, Halon, and Kickbox, for your support during the year. And if you want to get more information about one of them, all of them, it's up to you. Just download the sponsoring booklet. It's on the right on your screen in the download section. Download it and contact them and get more information about them. And we have some housekeeping rules for today. You're muted during the whole webinar, but we have two options for you. The first option is to ask your questions. You can use the chat function, just send them to organizer and we'll read the question out loud. Or we have the function that you can ask your questions live. Of course, we'll be happy if you use this function and ask the questions live to our speakers today, but it's up to you which function you want to use, but ask whatever you want about the topic, and our speakers are here for your support and to share their knowledge with you. And yeah, I'm glad I can hand over now to our speakers. I think Zeb will start, and you will hear me at the end of the session again.
That is right. Zeb will start. Let me first share my screen with you guys. Ideally, everyone should see the presentation in front of you. Yes, welcome to our webinar. I'm happy that it's an interesting topic. I'm also happy after an exhausting nearly 2023 ending. It's the last one. I'm happy to share it again with Elle and with Fredrik. We've talked so long about this topic, and finally we made it together with Halon. So let me first of all give Fredrik and Elle the chance to introduce themselves. Fredrik, who are you? Why are you here? Why did you join our webinar as a speaker?
No, it's quite easy, I think. I've been with Halon for 2.5 years, doing everything from technical pre-sales, implementations, product management, writing the occasional blog post. My history is more on the mailbox provider side. I've been doing that for almost 20 years, working with inbound email. It's just in the last 2 years I've been kind of dabbling into the outbound part of things. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you very much. Elle, why are you here? And please let us know about you a little bit.
All right. Hey, thank you, Sebastian. Hi, I'm Al Iverson. I publish a blog called Spam Resource. My background is deliverability and email operations. I've actually been blogging about deliverability since 2001. And my blog has just shy of 4 million hits from when the counter reset when I moved to a new platform in 2006. So I've been doing the deliverability thing for a little while. I was deliverability operations manager and director for Salesforce, Marketing Cloud, previously ExactTarget, overseeing a team of consultants, doing a little product management to help improve features and functionality for deliverability related stuff, and also a little bit of the MTA configuration and direction and customization of throughputs and good neighbor tables and that sort of thing. I also, for the past couple of years, was product managing a deliverability tool suite for a vendor in that space. And now I've moved on from that and I am looking for work. So if you've got a role that might fit my weird use case, a little bit of deliverability, a little bit of product manager, a little bit of operation specialties, please reach out. Like I said, spamresource.com is where you can find me, see what I know. And everything I know is up there on that blog.
I can just report that, and thanks guys that you're here. I'm leading the tech department of the CSA, so everything that's related to any technical services that our certified centers are using, I'm responsible for, as well as deliverability support. And some may have seen my face already on a few conferences, jumping around, small talking, and exchanging experience and opinions about special deliverability topics. And here we are. What's the plan for today? The plan for today is to pick up the ongoing discussion of DKIM replay attacks. Someone or some of you within the audience may have had experience or not with it, and I'm happy to have the discussion and conversation together with Al and Fredrik today about, let's start with an introduction. What is DKIM replay? How does that work? So to set everyone on the same level of knowledge, and to understand why it is an issue and why do we have different risks for the different groups, and why is it possible, and why was DKIM, why wasn't it a problem 10 years ago, and why is it now? And for sure, we've got recommendations, opinions, and we had, during the prep sessions, nice discussions about possibilities that could be technical possible, but maybe too far away from what's practical. And let's have a small look in terms of how does the future look like. Whenever you've got questions or a comment, please use the question section or the chat. And yes, the session will be recorded and will be sent around to all registered and sign up people afterwards. Okay, let's jump in directly. And so the main question, if you never heard about DKIM replay, what is it about and why do bad guys do it? And basically, let me show you something. This is a quick DKIM replay attack. So basically, this animation says it all. Fredrik, you made a great comment during the prep session. Please, can you define what a DKIM replay attack is for everyone's benefit?
So my thinking around it is that all of the authentication standards we have are designed so that forwarding an email, which is like practically the same as a replay, is allowed. Think email lists, you forwarding something to your other mailbox, something like that. This is allowed. For it to be a replay attack, you have to have malicious intent, right? So this means, all right, if we back up a little bit, why would you do this? And it's probably because, hey, I'm the bad guy spammer. I want to send something stupid to people. If I were to use my own reputation for that, that is probably already gone to shit. I can't use that. So I want to hijack someone else's reputation, which means tricking one of these senders. And it might be an ESP, it might be a mailbox provider, it might be a big reputable brand where you hack the mailbox to send out one message that is signed with DKIM, which means that you can hijack their reputation and then you would just get this message to your own mailbox and then replay it. I send 1 million copies of this now, and I'm using adidas.com, tesla.com, gmail.com as the reputation for my sending instead of using my own reputation.
Totally agree. And funny thing is that this hasn't been an issue 10 years ago. And I thought about it the other day, and the focus of mailbox providers switching from IP reputation, which has been important 10 years or 15 years only, and now with the total switch into domain-based reputation, suddenly DKIM Replay becomes a chance. That sounds strange, but it is using a design feature in email itself for abuse, and suddenly a standard that was meant to bring more security into the email authentication topic becomes an issue. And to be honest, we will further see an increase of it because it more and more gets importance. And it is, and the issue is we currently have no single standard that can really resolve the DKIM replay attack. The discussion is going on, and we'll see what final solution comes up with. But so far, it is looking at the current standards, how to tweak them to avoid DKIM replay attacks. Fredrik, good.
Yeah, and I think Al put it very good yesterday when we had a talk. Historically, we've been doing IP reputations, which means we trust the infrastructure that sends the email. This would simplified be the SPF, right? And now we are transitioning to trusting domains instead with DKIM signing. And the push to this is obviously IPv6, because there is no practical way to maintain a database with IPv6 reputation. It's just too big, right? I could get 1 billion IPv6 addresses tomorrow if I wanted to.
Right.
So that doesn't really work. So it's detaching the reputation of the email from the infrastructure, which means that if I were to do a replay attack, the recipient doesn't care if I do it from my own servers or from the original servers.
That's right. And that directly brings us to the first question that I saw here in the question section. It's exactly to our next topic. How does a replay attack work? And L, we agreed yesterday in the prep call, hey, let's just do that role play, and can you please help us out and describe how simple it is to replay an email message?
Yeah, and that's the rub. It's very simple because it's indistinguishable from the act of sending a message, right? It is just basically picking up a message and sending it. So if you wanted to take a message and replay it, you take any message you've received, just about any message you've received from any sender, take the whole raw source of that, from your, if you're a little bit of a Unix nerd, maybe it's from your inbox file, maybe it's from your Gmail mailbox, but you can take that whole thing, the headers and body and everything, and you can basically just re-inject that into the SMTP stream, right? If you're a Unix shell script nerd, you put that in there, basically you're piping that into SendMail or into Postfix, setting a recipient and passing all the same headers and body content that were already there on through. There's a little bit of an asterisk there that you don't necessarily, you could get crazy, and you don't necessarily have to include all the headers. You could strip some of them out. But the point is that you're including all the headers that are covered by the DKIM signature. So you're keeping the DKIM signature in place. You're keeping the body content in place, which is covered by the DKIM signature. You're keeping the various headers in place that are sort of cryptographically verified via the DKIM signature. Just re-injecting that and resending that. So basically, if somebody, like in that example with the good old Illinois lottery, couple of slides ago, I can take that message that I received and just re-inject it and send it to Sebastian or send it to Fredrik, and it will pass DKIM, and it will look like it authenticated properly. It will pass DMARC. It might fail SPF, right? There's most of the time when you do a replay, it's going to come from different infrastructure. big, huge SPF includes are a scary thing that might make it exploitable in a way where it could pass SPF, but that's more of a specialist case. But I pick it up, I resend it to Sebastian and Fredrik. It's going to come through to them. It's probably going to not get blocked because it's going to pass all authentication. It's not a, we're sort of sidestepping the concept of reputation, but that's the whole point of it from the technical perspective. Pick it up, send it through. It's going to authenticate just as well as it did for the original sender. And why do bad guys do that? We'll talk more about, you know, what's the upside of that here in a second.
Right. And that point is very important. And I like the mental picture that we created yesterday. It is basically the authentication of an email is divorced from the sending infrastructure. That was one major learning from me in the past month. I can compose an email on an internal app server, sign it with a proper DKIM or whatever I can do, and I can send it through whatever email server is available out there. It is an email message, a proper DKIM authenticated email message is not linked to any sending server. And that is the issue. And that's what spammers understood. They are taking a trustworthy email and send it through their own infrastructure. And they shut it down afterwards when they send the millions of emails.
Right, and it's a side effect of the transition from IP reputation to domain reputation, right? As you say, we've so well divorced the reputation from the infrastructure that it's easy to pick it up and resend it somewhere else and have it be indistinguishable from the normal act of sending a message.
Exactly. Right. Question to the audience. As you now heard about the definition and how the DKIM replay works, Maike, would you please start the poll in the back end? I would love to, or we would love to get to know from the audience if you ever experienced a DKIM replay attack recently or in the past. So have you been a victim of a DKIM replay attack, or have you observed on your ESP platform that finally through some other ways a DKIM has been stolen and has been misused by others? So thank you very much for answering. I just need to look, is there a possibility to... Okay, thanks for the poll. 68% said, no, we didn't experience a DKIM replay attack yet. And 32% said, yes. To me, I don't know, happy for you to share your opinion, but that represents to me the situation of the market. I think it is a still nerdy topic that we discuss in a kind of inner circle, but it's not observed that often outside. How do you see that?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm surprised that the yes were so high since this is such a niche problem. But then again, I guess this webinar draws people with that kind of experiences, so it kind of skews the numbers, I guess.
Right.
And as we'll talk about too, you know, a lot of audiences is marketing senders, commercial email senders. They are not free of risk, but perhaps the risk is a little lower. Well, we'll talk more about those sort of tiers of risk here in a minute as well.
Exactly, and there we are. Who's gonna be attacked? Who could be a victim? And there are different levels and different groups that do play a role there.
So let's start with definitions there, right? When we say ESPs, MVPs, and enterprise accounts, when I say ESPs, I mean, you know, large bulk email senders, your marketing clouds, your MailChimps, your Constant Contact, all of those platforms that send bulk messages for marketers. That's ESPs. MVPs being mailbox providers. Think of Gmail, Yahoo, GMX, Mail.com, Mail.de, T-Online, all of those happy people. And then you have enterprise accounts, which are, I sort of think of those as in the middle. Like think of your customer of O365. You have Google Workspace mailboxes. You host your custom domain on Fastmail. And you sort of a paid email infrastructure where users can set content, but it's still a paid barrier to entry. And so all of those have sort of different risk levels associated with those. Fredrik, should we split these up?
Yeah, no, what I think is the risk level as someone who signs messages and sends them out is related to two things, right? How good is your reputation, and how easy is it for people to customize the content that goes out? So if you are, I don't know, Facebook, for example, you only send transactional messages that you have templates for and control, you will not really be in the risk of that, right? But let's say I hack an account for a secretary at the White House, right? And I can send whatever I want from whitehouse.gov and have it signed. Maybe they don't even, sanitize the from header, so I can fake that as well, do like, I don't know, newsletter at whitehouse.gov or whatever. If I get a hold of that, that is like proper high risk, because that would have a good reputation, that domain, and people who see it will be like, oh shit, this is important. So it's the entire scale of that. In the middle would probably be the mailbox providers, the free mail services. You sign up and you get a message sent out with gmail.com, because you can't really spam from their infrastructure. They have rate limits in place. They will block it. But if you get one message out with their reputation, you can replay it from your own infrastructure later.
So, and to your point, right, that why are people doing this? They're looking to steal a domain reputation. It looks like I just glitched here, so I'll repeat that. It's to steal a domain reputation. They're looking to be able to pick up and send messages using a domain that has a good reputation to bypass spam filters, because spam filters otherwise are very good. A domain reputation usually accurately reflects what's going on with that domain. So that's where the ESP. Oh man, am I there? I'm freaking out here. Only the camera's blinking. I think the internet's going a little bad. I'm gonna turn the camera off and keep talking here. So the ESP side of things, they have the good domains with the good reputation, but they don't have the easy way to make content. And then on the other side, you might have O365, where some random domain name like wombatmail.com, like my domain. Is it worth stealing my domain reputation? No, but it might be easy to hack my account and create a message, but the value for that domain isn't there. So that's sort of there's sort of a matrix of risk across those, where, as Fredrik talked about, as ESPs, they sign lots of mail, they send lots of mail. You could pick it up and you could resend it, but you cannot customize the content if it's signed correctly, if it's configured correctly. Harder to change the content from that reputable brand. Versus, as Fredrik said, if you pick up a message, go into Gmail, send a message from Gmail to Hotmail, go into Hotmail, grab the message source. Now you've got a DKIM signed message with your customized content that you could DKIM replay that to 1 million people and use the domain reputation of Gmail. That's sort of the risk there, right? You gotta have a domain reputation worth sort of stealing or leveraging, and the ability to customize content. So that's sort of the matrix there, right? On the one end, you've got the ESPs, on the other end, you've got mailbox providers. Then you got that sort of the B2B enterprise stuff somewhere in the middle.
That's right. Anything to add, Fredrik? Otherwise, I move one step further, because there is automatically the next question coming up. I mean, we got the situation, we got the different risk levels, and I mean, we can be sure real spammers do a good research, so they definitely judge upfront, is it worth to hijack a highly secured account to get a highly trustworthy reputation for any purposes, maybe to steal directly very sensitive information? Or do I hijack a brand's reputation, because brands in the commercial sector are known for sending mass mailings? And if a famous brand outside there sends 1 million messages per day or per week, and the spammer is able to replay 100,000 it may not be seen by mailbox providers and filters anyway, because it's coming from that same, and it's common that there is bulk volume coming from that, right? So they really do that differentiation and then look up for. The question is, can we stop it? And I already spoiled it up front. There is no silver bullet out there. There's not the one solution to stop DKIM replay attacks. But there are some possibilities that we would love to present to you, summarize, and to be very honest, repeat to you, because some low-hanging fruits are already there. And it's again the discussion about what do we have in our current protocols, standards, solutions that we can already leverage there, but maybe rarely used so far. What are low-hanging fruits that we know about, even within the DKIM protocol, that's misused here?
Yeah, and some of these perhaps do not stop DKIM replay, but they make it less attractive. They make it less useful to be able to utilize it as a vector for badness, right? So that's an important thing. Some of these are very basic things that are already DKIM best practices too. So if you're already following DKIM and you're the right level of nerd, you might look at this and go, oh, this is very basic. But we talked about this and decided to be sure to cover the basics, because not everybody knows everything. You don't always know what you might have missed, and you want to go back and confirm that your infrastructure is configured as good as possible to prevent issues like this. For example, I think, I'll jump around a little bit here. For example, the one thing that I only recently learned about was expiration. I've never used the X flag in DKIM to set an expiration time for a DKIM signature for a message. To me, that seems very helpful to help mitigate DKIM replay. Now you read the spec says do not use this setting to mitigate, to try to stop DKIM replay. That is a whole other discussion, but it is there, and it is an option for people who want to do it, because if you configure it where the message will only verify, the signature will only verify for a short time after the message is sent, it's going to make it less possible, very much less useful for a bad guy to try to pick it up and send it to a million more people. So to me, that's very valuable. I think you take it to the next level, and that's where incrementation, changing the selector, rotating your selector periodically so that somebody cannot just sort of keep a cache of messages and DKIM replay them to annoy people. That's sort of to take that expiration to the next level, make the key actually go away over time. That might be overkill. Expiration might be good enough, but it's something to consider and talk about more as we learn more about this. Oversigning is another very important step. What is oversigning? Basically, it means attaching your DKIM signature to additional headers, whether or not they're present in the message, making sure you're signing as many as the standard headers as possible, so that a bad guy is not able to add on those headers and have the message still pass DKIM authentication. That's the point of oversigning, is to make the message less malleable, less changeable, to be while it's being reused as a DKIM replay. Because if you think about, like, for example, think of Adidas, for example. I could take an Adidas email, pick it up, resend it to a million people. But if I can't change any of that content in there, what's the value of doing that? I could be annoying, but I could not tell people to come click on my spam, to come to my spam website and give me spam money, right? So making sure that the message cannot be customized in any way that will be visible to the next person to receive the mail on the other receiving end of that DKIM replay attack is very important. It reduces the value, reduces the utility of a DKIM replay attack. Mailing lists. Mailing lists are the other big thing there. There's a whole other many hours discussion to be had about there. Unfortunately, I think mailing list discussions have the ability to suck all the air out of the room. They are this much of email, but they are this much of email discussion. And so I don't necessarily want to get into that there. There are ways to deal with mailing lists. There are ways where a mailing list provider can choose to take authority over messages when they send. Arc is supposed to help with that, though it's only had sort of limited adoption. But even before Arc was a fully formed spec, there were ways around this. There's sort of the same challenges that were originally faced with mailing lists and DMARC. So the same kind of stuff there is making sure that messages are appropriately signed and owned by somebody in control of the message, right? So bad guys cannot easily pick it up, modify it, and resend it. No free bulk email. Now ESPs, that's another potential vector right there, right? If I can go get a free demo marketing cloud account for any sort of sending platform, take that message. I could put my content in it, take that message after it is sent, and go ahead and resend it to 1 million people, and that lets me sort of steal the reputation of that default domain setting that the ESP might have. So that's another example of things can go bad, and you might want to really restrict what people can do with messages until you've vetted them, at least through the method of a sign up and a payment. Last point there, it's just really outbound filtering for MVPs. I would put that on there. It's a little bit of a pie in the sky. I wish we could do it, right? But what people who are doing DKIM Replay are doing it because they want to be able to send spam. So anything you can do to try to catch outbound spam, whether it be links to bad domains with bad reputations, content filtering, whatever, it might be worth investigating to try to identify, especially for the newest users, the people first in through the door, or anytime you have a suspicion of a hacked account. Anything you can do to try to minimize the creation of bad content probably means that you are helping minimize the usefulness of a later DKIM replay attack.
Fredrik, you mentioned just yesterday to me, it sounded like it is a fundamental requirement of re-signing. As we already said, the authentication of a sending server and the authentication of the email itself is divorced, so they are not linked to another. You said, hey, when I got soft bounces, let's just re-sign it. And what's the idea behind that? I love the idea. And as you have especially the sender and mailbox provider's perspective, so both, please can you explain again? I love that idea.
Yeah, I think when we are talking to senders, all of these mitigation strategies is, there is no silver bullet here that will solve the problems. It's the same reason I have the sticker on my door that says I have an alarm. I bought it on eBay. It's just so that they will break into my neighbor instead. Right? It's to make it hard and undesirable to hijack your reputation. And this can be everything from easiest, don't use your own reputation, force your clients to use their own domain and don't even sign with yours, right? You could do that. Expiration is one good thing that doesn't solve the issue, but it makes it cumbersome. So let's say I'm an ESP, I allow my clients to customize their messages fully. I sign it with my domain, which have a good reputation. I do a 1 hour expiration on messages I send out. How many messages do you think I can send in 1 hour? That's millions.
Many.
Right.
Yeah. And if you have no strategies for identifying when this has happened, what is stopping me from getting a new email every 30 minutes and just continuing? So it makes it cumbersome, but it doesn't solve the problem.
Right. There's a specific question in the questions sections regarding the expiry tag. What ESPs actually allow a sender to use the X tag? Do we have any ideas if it is in use by ESPs, or is it?
It is in use, and typically it's what we've seen is for like new accounts, trial accounts, that it's fairly low. Like we could see 10 minutes, and then for reputable clients of yours, you would ramp it up. But then you also have to like segment the kind of traffic. Like if you're sending transactional emails, again, where you have the template for it, no risk of it being tampered with or adjusted by a malicious actor, then there is no need. But if you have something that is a high risk, yeah, then you would want to put it lower. But you only want to put it lower if it's not important. Like marketing emails are less important than transactional password resets. So it's a balancing act.
Totally agree. Thank you very much. There is another question in the question section about the X tag first. Would using the X expiration cause delayed openings to fail DKIM?
Likely no. I think the DKIM is really a gateway authentication methodology versus opens are meant to be, for better or worse, a tracking at the time of interaction, whether that be now or later. And so if you look at it, if you think of the the DKIM and DMARC and SPF, all of this stuff is sort of at the gangway, at the gateway, at the entry point. So anything else is beyond that. Now, be careful. Opens are problematic for many other reasons. If Marcel Becker were here and I used the word open detection anymore, he would hit me with a stick. But it's important to remember that there are other reasons opens are bad, but DKIM or delay with the expiration header or any rotating keys like that, no, it shouldn't really have an effect on it.
No, DKIM should be validated upon receiving it. It's not like any mailbox clients will validate it again when it's opened.
Right. Right. There's a comment. Recipients open their message 2 days after it's sent, but DKIM has expired. To me, from my understanding, the DKIM only plays a role in the momentum of receiving the message. So even days after, the DKIM can be expired because the email message has been received and it is in the inbox, and it will not have any effect because it stays there forever. So authentication is done only once.
If this was a problem, even an expiration of 10 years would be a problem, right? You go back to old email archives every time, or
that's
it's fine.
That's correct. There is an interesting comment and question as well. Maybe it is because of the definition of DKIM. I just read it out and then let's have a talk about it. The message body is included in the DKIM signature, which is right. That's the whole intention. So signature of the whole email body. So if a spammer changes the content, the signature becomes invalid. So the spammer can't change the content. Why should he resend the email if it is in the original mail? It helps spreading the email of the original sender. Yes and no. I just have one single example in my mind. If I would be a spammer, I'm just looking for the reputation. So I can, in theory, already prepare a phishing link email. I send it only once from my private Gmail account to my private GMX account. And then I've got a fully authenticated valid email, but with the invalid link, phishing link into it already. And then I just replay it hundred thousands and million times through another infrastructure, misusing the Gmail or the GMX reputation. So I don't even need to change the content. I can already steal the reputation of a different domain by sending already malicious content just once, and that will not be on the radar of mailbox providers.
Yeah, and this is
another way to frame that is to say, what is the value of it to the bad guy? And the bad guy wants to be able to include his bad content. And that could be either if the DKIM message, DKIM signature has gaps and you could add extra headers and do stuff, maybe they sneak it in the extra header. That's where oversigning and the other stuff comes into play to make sure you can't do that. So if they can't do that, they still want to get their bad content out there. So that's where, if they can generate the content that goes in the original message that gets DKIM signed, in other words, like you say, send it from a Gmail to a GMX, then you have a fully signed message with bad guy content to resend to a million others. Versus that other example I talked about before, think of, again, Adidas, right? They could say, you would take a message that is trying to sell me shoes. I could take that message and I could resend it to a million other people. But because of the DKIM signature, if it's properly configured, I cannot change that content. So yes, I could do a DKIM replay, but the value to me as a bad guy is very low. I could annoy people, but I cannot have a way to drive people to go to my bad content and follow my bad guidance.
Right. I would just read out another one and then we go a step further. To be honest, I'm not familiar with it. The question, would the Z tag copied header field help with this issue? Fredrik, you're more the expert in that.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot now. I'm not the expert on this. I would have to read up on that. I've not seen it used, which would lead me to think it is not used. It is a good question.
Any opinion from you, Al? I don't have any clue.
I am, this is new to me as well. Used by mailbox providers to process diagnosis verification issues, usually differs from the headers listed in the H tag. No, I don't think this is well defined enough to be able to use that for this purpose today. There could be something in there that I don't know enough, because there's a lot of stuff that I don't know, and so there could be something in there. But as best I can tell at first reading, I don't see something necessarily suitable there. I've certainly not heard of it come up as a potential solution previously.
Right. Maybe Mo, you asked that question. Feel free to share your thoughts why you come up with the Z tag into the comments. Happy to add that into the discussion. Or if you want to, I can also unmute your mic and you can have the discussion with us. So just let me know through the chat or through the question section. Other than that, moving a bit forward, from the receiver side, Fredrik, what can a receiver do to not stop DKIM? Oh, yeah, maybe after some time stop a DKIM replay attack once it started. But what are recommendations to have a better situation in that case?
So the very low hanging fruit would be to actually do authentication in the proper way and follow the standards. So don't allow more than 1-2 header, stuff like that. You should check that, and any modern email software will do this for you. It's not rocket science. I think the biggest part we see here from mailbox providers is that by definition a replay attack will use the same DKIM signature for every message, and this is where you have to fine tune it depending on how many mailboxes you serve. But if you are a reasonably sized ISP, for example, and you see a peak in one specific DKIM signature, hey, I got 200 messages that were exactly the same, there's probably something going on there. It could be an email list. You need to keep track of that, because some email lists don't assume the reputation and send on their own behalf. They just forward it, which is practically it's a replay. It's not a replay attack because it doesn't have the malicious intent, but it is the same thing. But if you can technically do that, that is a good solution for blocking it if you see too many of the same message, because that's typically no good. Point number 2 here, I really like. It would be fantastic if there, for example, was a demarc tag where you could say, I want messages from my domain to pass both DKIM and SPF. That would be awesome. It was an option. We can't really just add it now because that would wreak havoc.
Right. And I personally believe as well that this would be a game changer if both sides, the legitimate and credible sender side and all the mailbox providers at the same time agree on, okay, senders from now on will always send SPF and DKIM aligned messages, while mailbox providers at the same time will say, okay, we will accept no other emails from now on that are not aligned on both of them. And that, I think that will be game changer.
The rollout plan for this stupid idea would just be a new DMARC tag, right? That you would add. I require dual alignment on messages now, and then you as a sender can say to the recipient, "This is what I want."
Now, even without the tag, Gmail is sort of driving people to that already. One of the updates to the upcoming Gmail and Yahoo requirements, Gmail has said that for senders over a certain size, sending more than 5,000 messages, do have to have both SPF and DKIM in play. Now, I don't know that they both have to be aligned, and I don't know that it fully solves everything, but it's still a step toward that, and I think that is fantastic. I think also it might be, like if we think to the history of ADSP versus DMARC and other sort of modifications of the spec, it might be, I would love to see it specification driven. I would love to see a DMARC tag that specifically addressed that. I would be one of the first people to turn it on. But I think there will be so much pushback from that at an IETF or RFC level that I think you're more likely to see Gmail, Yahoo, Microsoft, etc. begin to enforce that even before there's any sort of standard. Otherwise, they'll say, if we wait for the standard, we'll never get traction. There'll be too much spam in the meantime.
Right. I mean, we do not even need to have such a tag. It is already possible to implement alignment on both. So the question is why ESPs don't do it, because I bet if the majority of ESP platforms would do it, it will be recognized by mailbox providers, and they will benefit. They would benefit from it, and not just doing the bare minimum of it. So it is here on that side, the senders community who may be able to do the first step, being more strict on that, and the benefit will automatically come back from the mailbox providers.
But it's the same thing as always, right? You need a pushing force to go that way, because if I were a small mailbox provider, I couldn't enforce it myself, right? My support desk would be overrun with complaints. So it's the same thing with like IPv4, IPv6, right? It's getting no traction. The day Google and Microsoft says, all right, in 6 months, we're turning off IPv4, I bet you everyone will be using only IPv6 in 6 months, right? So it needs that push. And it's kind of what Google and Yahoo is doing now with the, all right, we require alignment now. We are going one step further, which I think is fantastic, because it's always people who say, oh, this has been working for 40 years. I don't want to change. Yeah, but regulation changes all the time, right? You're not driving your horse in the city anymore, right? You have a car now. Come on.
That's
right.
I'm
sure somewhere somebody is saying, we are sitting here celebrating something that will kill email, and it will not kill email. Email evolves. Email technology evolves, and frankly, email has gotten more complex over time. That is normal. That is natural.
That is right. And but Fredrik, did I hear you right that you are saying, me as the technical lead of the CSA, I still should set up more strict technical requirements for certification, including strict alignment on SPF and DKIM?
Totally. You guys are too lax.
No,
but
just
if you think about
this joke. But
so many
I
of
would
these platforms. Sorry, go ahead.
Go. Yeah. In the matter of times, let's just jump a bit further, because we've got still a few ideas. Because what about the future? I mean, we have that situation right now. We are discussing what can we do, what are the options, and what options will work. And so we started as well discussing what could be potentially possible. And to the point that you already made, El, what we have observed, I think in the past 2.5 years, that the well-known DKIM replay attacks have been, because of mailbox providers, got aware of it and have been misused. And my best guess is that also this movement, or the latest announcement of Gmail and Yahoo, may have been already the starting point to make some movement in the right direction. Because Gmail and Yahoo have been also the major driver of turning IP reputation into domain-based reputation. Now we have that issue, and maybe Marcel confirms that we are moving ahead here, and it is time to make changes. And we already talked about it. Future DMARC enhancement and strict enforcement, maybe one solution. It will be a tough one, a hard one. It means lots of change and lots of commitment as well. Yeah, then we've got some technical possible, but theoretically, but only theoretically solutions. I came up with the idea in a discussion with the mailbox provider. Okay, with the situation that sending platform authentication and email authentication is separate, why not including an IP into the DKIM signature? That would link the sending platform to the email. I fully get that is a real challenge. Load balancing does play a role. Composing does play a role. I totally get it. But why not having a look if it's somehow possible in the future? And instead of divorcing, marry authentication of the email with the sending infrastructure. And Fredrik, due to the job you're doing and the service you're providing, you came up with other ideas here as well.
Yeah. And now we are really into the not practical theoretical stuff. But say you are an ESP, you sign stuff with your own domain. Your domain has a good reputation, and you are a target for this. So we ran a short proof of concept with this by mating the sending email server with the DNS service, which meant that every client got their own DKIM key, but also every message got their own selector for the key in the DNS. So that allowed us to track every DNS result that comes back to us for each message, which would very rapidly show up if you were the target of a DKIM attack, replay attack. So if one of the messages that got out and you see, oh crap, I have 100 DNS results for this specific key, that's typically not good, which would allow you to automatically handle that and revoke those keys and stop it pretty early without any manual intervention, which was pretty cool. But then again, not super practical, but I don't think it's a stupid idea. I like it.
Let's see when it will be technically possible. I mean, we always have the expectation from ESPs.
The point here is that this would require no change to any standards. It's something you as a sender can build, and we built it. It works. We didn't really drive it to the goal, right? It would need some fine tweaking. Because then you would email list with 10,000 recipients, and then you would revoke the key automatically because you haven't thought about that. So there's stuff to think about, but there's no reason why you can't measure DNS resolves on your DKIM selectors and use that as a metric for what is going on with my sending.
Right.
All metrics are good, right?
That's right. Just make use of this, as always. Okay, in the matter of time, I just have a few questions here. So first of all, I think it has been a great discussion, controversial and still open. I mean, we still didn't find the one solution, right? There's a few questions and comments from the audience that I will not just leave here unmentioned. So there's an interesting question, maybe quick to answer. Are there any known email deliverability tools out there that are able to detect and report when a DKIM replay attack occurs? Interesting question. I had it once myself. We started within the CSA to set it up because based on our individual user complaints data, we have been able to identify DKIM replays. Lucky enough, they failed in authentication, so they never made it into the inbox, but we saw them. Fredrik L., do you know about any tools that are able to detect that?
Not really. I think of the theory there being you could make some assumptions based on, for example, failing SPF and the recipient not being in the two-header. it being a BCC in a lot of those instances. But again, those are also potentially legitimate use cases. I suppose if you apply a counter and something is much higher volume and has those failures, you could probably imply it. That would be kind of a neat thing to apply to my spam trap feeds, for example. So I'm gonna poke around and see what I come up with, but I haven't heard of anything else so far.
I think you'd either have to do it with my stupid DNS idea, or if you were an operator of spam traps, like spam house and music, stuff like that, I bet you have statistics on this as well.
Good point. We may have a discussion with those guys, how they think about it. We all know them, so asking them. A question about double signing. I love double signing personally in the ESP business. Double signing is perfect. Does using double DKIM help to make DKIM replay attacks less likely? To me, not.
No,
because
only if you are like allowing people to send messages without from and to headers, and then not double signing, and then people can add them later, right? It's that really niche case where it would help to do double signing, but then again, then you should probably require to and from headers anyway. So
right. Then there was a comment about that DMARC alignment that we've just discussed about. Exactly to that point, it is already possible to just implement ADKIM and ASPF. It doesn't need a tag to mention, hey, I've set up both. It is visible in the DMARC standard itself. And yes, ESPs need to start strictly and consequently using it. And then mailbox providers will also quickly jump on it and will recognize it and benefit to it and say, hey, because you do it that strict, it is tough, but because you do it that strict, you get the benefits on that for us.
Bit of a chicken and egg scenario, right? And I think the problem that a lot of platforms have is their bounce handling was designed 25 years ago, right? There's a standard called VERB, variable envelope return path, that was meant to help capture out-of-band bounces, delayed asynchronous bounces. It was necessary when listserv was king. It is no longer necessary in 2023. And it's an impediment to exact alignment in a lot of cases because infrastructure sometimes dictates to have separate servers to process these more complicated bounces versus wanting replies to go to a human or going to a ticketing system or somewhere else. You can mesh them together, but a lot of places have chosen not to do so. So that's the mindset that people have to get out of, that like you need to find the reasons that are stopping you from doing exact alignment and solve them. That's the real problem, because there are too many big sending platforms that were designed too long ago and just stood up and they assume that how they process bounces when it was first designed will be fine forever. Right? You get all these people who are building new features of functionality, exploring multi-channel and SMS and all this other stuff, but what gets left behind are the necessary technical underpinnings for email and email best practices and updates to those best practices. And so you run into situations like that, where I could think of a handful of providers, probably 4 or 5 off the top of my head, who currently would never be able to do strict alignment because they have chosen to be stuck in this past methodology of how they handle bounces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think if you look at big senders like SendGrid, for example, if you just sign up and start sending, they will use their own domain for the return path. But if you add some DNS records on your end, they will send it with your domain, and you will get aligned with that as well.
That's common with all the platforms that you can just sign up and send free emails. That's the same case there. So that's exactly why we added that point to the recommendations. Now it's at the top of the hour. I'm afraid Maike will. There she is. You're German, right? You're always in time. It's 6 p.m. and you're there.
Yes. First of all, thank you. Thank you, Fredrik and Al, for your time today. And of course, thank you, Zeb, for sharing your knowledge. And thank you all attendees. We have a lot of questions here, but as you can see, the email addresses of our speakers, if you have further questions the next days, contact them directly, ask your questions. And yeah, thank you all. And hopefully see you soon.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.